welcome back to another Brunch, your Sunday rendezvous with the hockey coach, road coach Francis, directly for the beautiful country of Thailand. And we have to welcome back, after missing 1 week, Mr. Marko Larabi from Ottawa.
Hey, how's it going, Coach? Sorry about last weekend. My internet was completely out for the whole weekend. It was awful.
It is what it is. Happens sometimes. Your internet last week, me and my power last night between the Montreal and the Tampa Bay, like, hey, something we're not in control, right? And it's happening sometime. It is what it is at the end of the night. Some point I was thinking to bench you, but I said, better to keep him with me for the rest of the season. So
you could embarrass me and just have me sit on the show and not be allowed to say anything the whole show.
Or I could put there and then let you talk, but put a picture of you. That's it. So we can be that way at the same time. But listen, we have a lot of subjects to talk. And of course, the Jonathan Drouin situation, you're going to talk today. Montreal played 4 games last week. It was not all pretty or overall for the week. We have a couple of injuries and we have a couple of news. And then the prospect Lane Hudson again, another great weekend for him. So we have a lot of things to talk about during the day today on the great Sunday, March 19, 2023. And the subject, Mr. Marko, is with the skid for the Montreal Canadiens. They respond very well last night with, again, the Tampa Bay Lightning. I really like the way they carried it. They bounced back at least, again, the Tampa versus what happening with the Florida Panthers and the Colorado Avalanche. But that's what we have for this week. I'm sure you're ready to rock and roll.
Let's rock and roll, Coach.
Here we go. Here we go. Let's talking about the first subject of the day. Usually, Marko, this is episode number 26, by the way. The first 25, we always do the review of the week, talk about the Montreal Canadiens, what happening, couple news, and then we ask people who stood out, and that's why I ask you. But this week, because this became really a big drama inside the Montreal Canadiens around. I'm talking about, of course, Jonathan Drouin, drama of the week for the Jonathan Drouin. And it looked like, I don't know if you know that, but they're still looking for him, Mr. Marko. But it looked like they found him on the bench last night during the game between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Montreal Canadiens. Obviously, he did not play 0 minute. Who was the last player, Mr. Marko, did the same situation, 0 minute during a game couple of years ago?
Oh, man, I heard it on the TV last night, but I'm going to try. I can't remember who it is, but yeah.
Buffalo Sabres, Sam Reinhart, March 2017, played 0 minute during the time, so I just want to share it with you. But I apologize, I didn't want to put you on the bad situation. I just want to give you what happening on that. But good. I'm sure you have some 2 cents about that situation, Jonathan Drouin, and let's start talking about him right away.
Yeah. I'm probably going to get crucified for this in the chat, but listen, it is what it is. Like, I know there's going to be a crowd of people, that we know how everybody feels about Jonathan Drouin. Listen, like, I just don't, Coach, hockey culture better than I do, right? But I don't think I could have been a hockey player, I'll tell you that. Like, being 2 minutes, the first time he's ever been late for a meeting in his career, apparently, that's what he says, so we'll take him at his word. 2 minutes late. Now, I understand the hockey culture thing. If you're not there 15 minutes before, you're late. And I get that. Like, I've been a manager in workplaces where it's like that. Like, if you work in a call center, then if you're not there 15 minutes before your shift to get all of your tools ready and you're not ready to go by 9 a.m. or whatever, then you're technically late because you're not being productive. That's like, I get it, right? But being somebody who's managed people in that kind of environment, there's no way that I would do something to the extreme that Montreal did to Jonathan Drouin the first time that they were late by 2 minutes. It seems to me like, for the most part, I really agree, and I'm always endorsing most of what the new Habs management's been doing. Martin Saint-Louis, how I feel about him, and I love what he's doing. But let's not forget, and again, people are going to crucify me for this in the chat, but Jonathan Drouin has an anxiety disorder, right? He has like mental illness when it comes to his anxiety, right? So, and everybody knows that. So, so first of all, you put him in this situation. I get it. Like, they were going to bench it. They were going to sit him, not dress him. And then Guhle wasn't able to go. And by the way, I'll get to Jayden Guhle in a minute, because that's another thing that pissed me off this week. But so Jayden Guhle is not able to go. So they sit Jonathan Drouin, and then they decide to dress him. And then they sit him there the whole time. And he was a pro. Like, even Martin Saint-Louis said it last night. He was a total pro, encouraging his teammates on the bench and all that. But to me, I'm an HR guy, right? I've worked in HR. So I just don't understand how a management team could subject a human being to that. Now, I know they get paid millions of dollars, and oh my God, cry me a river. I know that people are going to say that, but I just don't think it's a good way to do business. Now, I get it. St. Louis said, like, listen, like, this is the first time I've had to really discipline someone. You want to kind of draw that line in the sand, and you don't want players to. I get it, but there's other ways to do that. Like, why does hockey have to be so like, kind of ancient ages when it comes to stuff like this? Like, Montreal's supposed to be a progressive organization. I don't find this was a very progressive move. And again, like, it's not about, we know Jonathan Drouin, we know his history, we know his shortcomings, but I just didn't like it. It's one thing, like, okay, if you're going to scratch him, now you have to play him. Then and the other thing I don't like about him just sitting on the bench, you're putting extra strain on the other players that already have so many injuries. You're double shifting, the other centers for that game, and you're potentially putting them in a position to get injured when we just really can't afford to have any more injuries at this point. So I didn't like it at all. Excuse me. It made me so upset that my sinuses are all. Ugh.
So, if Christian Dvorak does the same thing, what do you do with him and you sit him?
Yeah. Like, so again, like, to me, you don't treat everybody the same. You treat them fairly, right? So if Christian Dvorak, goes to that situation,
I could be another player. It could be Nick Zuski example.
Yeah. So whoever it is, right? I don't think we're not machines, right? Like, it seems to me like I've never been in the military, right? But it seems like a very military. You know what it reminded me of? I don't know if anybody will get this reference. Have you ever seen the movie Full Metal Jacket? It's a old, like, a Stanley Kubrick war movie, right? In that movie, there's this one cadet. It's all about military training and the basic training going into the Vietnam, right? And this one guy, he's just not very good. Like, he's a little bit overweight, and he makes a lot of mistakes. And then the drill sergeant starts to punish him by punishing the other soldiers around him. And guess what? I won't spoil it, but if you haven't seen that movie, it doesn't turn out very good. That soldier ends up losing his mind and doing really bad things. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen to Jonathan Drouin, but that's the first thing that it reminded me of, is putting these kind of like military tactics on trying to manage people. Like, I just don't see how, like, it doesn't seem like Martin Saint-Louis style. Like, I know that he was, with John Tortorella and all that. I just don't like it. I just think that.
But what happens if tomorrow Jordan Munson does the same thing, and then the following day is Jake Allen, and then the following day is Brendan Gallagher, and then next week is it become 6, 7, 8 players does the same thing. So what do you do with that situation? How do you deal with that?
There's a lot of different ways you can deal with that. Like, money is a good one. You could find them, like, money talks, right? But there's other ways than publicly humiliating someone who has an anxiety disorder.
But if you do that, right, if you pay the players, how they affect the team or not? So if you start a practice at 10:30, you have a team meeting at 10 o'clock, and now you have to wait for Jonathan Drouin pop up. And now he pop up at 10:03, 10:04, and now you're already engaged with what you want to accomplish as a team. But now he show up, but he missed the first 3-4 minutes of the team meeting.
Yeah, I get
Again, as a coach, you don't like it a lot. So maybe 3 minutes when the meeting start, but if you should be there 15 minutes before the meeting start, you say now 17 minutes. The fact of this is it's a repetition to be sure nobody does this every day or every 2 days, every 3 days, something like that. I think for the team concept, this is the right thing to do. It's not negotiable. If you're late, it's not going to work. You have to be sure. Now, a little bit more extreme last night because they have nobody on the roster. So they are, at the end of the day, if Cody played tomorrow, they play yesterday. 11 forward, 7D. Whiteman pick up his spot, and that's all. We move on. He sit in the stand and watch the game. I think for me, it was better to put him on the bench and watching the game. Why? You want to see the reaction of the players. You want to see how he's going to react. He did a really good job. He was professional. Next, we talk about him. Martin said we talk about him. He reacted very properly, the right way, understood. He did the right wing, and he's been that way since January. He's been very positive. He got healthy scratch in October, November. I don't know exactly when. What he said after that, it was understand. He just need to come back and practice harder. And the guy is growing as a maturity inside that one there. But it was the one yesterday or Friday. Now it could be Savard next week, or it could be any other players. You don't want to go around, because if you start this, the next time the guy pop up 10 minutes or 30 minutes, what you do with this guy?
I think, again, Coach,
as a team culture, you don't want to go around that. I have many ways me I will involved with that. Pretty sure nobody does. Like example, if the Zamboni is on the ice, and now they are waiting for the doors shut down, right? But I want to be sure everybody is right there. If not, we're not going to go anything here. It's a team concept. So you put all together. I'm telling you right now, when I opened the door, they was pushing the locker room to be sure the last one come act right there. If you don't pop up, I was skating everyone. Not a guy can finish. Everyone's going to finish, and I will go all the way. For me, that's the right way. I think the one try to, not the one, but we bring a team culture. Whatever is the 30 second or 45 second, I have no time about that. It's just about the time. It's about his gesture to missing the practice. He said, honestly, the one last night, my alarm clock I didn't hear the alarm clock. So he's been honest on the flip side, Drouin. He done that. What you get out of this, you have two ways. He showed exactly his character. He showed exactly who he is now. And he turned the page. This Martin Louis said, tomorrow is a new day. Martin Louis has been there since the beginning of the season. Tomorrow is a new day. We want to restart, and we forget everything behind us. We have to move forward. The train have to go forward. Drouin battled for the UFA contract. He become UFA, so he battled for a contract, whatever he's going to be. But this is the end of Jonathan Drouin with Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, for sure. Like if there was any debate before, we've had these conversations in the chat over the last couple of weeks, like, oh well, maybe they could. Like, no, it's over now. There's no way he's coming back. And don't forget who this guy's agent. I was just waiting. I was on Twitter waiting for Alan Walsh, who is his very, very outspoken agent. Some of you might remember the Marc-Andre Fleury incident with the picture of like the sword in his back. So I wouldn't be surprised if we hear something from Alan Walsh here in the next 24 hours. Coach, agree to disagree. Like, listen, like, to me, it sounds like they're in the military, and I get it. There's a lot of it happened before too. Like, some teams, they create a boot camp and they have consultants that come in from the military, and I get it. Like, I think there's other ways. To me, Montreal is supposed to be a progressive organization. I just don't see this as a progressive move. To me, that's just a very dinosaur move to do. There's other ways, like, for it not to kind of become commonplace in your culture. Like if everybody starts, there's ways to send a message and not do it publicly so that other players know that if they do that, there will be consequences.
But the problem is about if he does not play tonight, the people will ask why he does not play.
Yeah.
You have no choice. Yeah, if you go that way, you have no choice to mention what's happening. You cannot try to protect. And Martin Louis always protect his players in the beginning of the year. He always go around. He tried to go, but that moment he cannot do anything. And as a coach, you piss off because he gave 9 goals, right? He passed all night. Martin Louis at 11 o'clock until 3 o'clock in the morning to do 2 things: the team meeting and the practice for 1 hour, 75 minutes. This is rare at the end of the March to do a practice for 75 minutes. It's not happening usually. But you know what? He wanted to be sure that happening Friday, Thursday night, not going to happening Saturday. Now you add this and you miss a players for he's late. That just add more upset, and then they know they have no negotiable about this. I'm sure they have 3-4 rules inside the organization. They cannot be on different things. I don't know what they are, but every coach have their own. This is not negotiable. You cannot do this. If not, I'm telling you right now, you're going to go this. It's professional. It's a high level. It's not like a youth travel that we said to you. You're late the first time, right? But maybe I would said is the player inside the team are going to decide the punishment of the players.
I like that.
And they would tell me one period example. At 12 years old, I was teaching the kid at 12 years old to respect the time for everybody. Respect, because if you show up late, you don't respect your teammate, you don't respect the coaches, and that's the reason you have to get a consequence. Then it was the team decide. One player the first time, he can go all the way like that.
So I get it, Coach. But bottom line is, again, I don't have an issue with the original plan, which is okay. So he missed the team meeting, so he gets scratched, and the coach has to explain that. I get it, but then in the situation, you have to be able to adapt, right? They're harping on the players to be adaptable and modify their, to be able to read plays and be adaptable on the ice. Well, the management team needs to adapt to a situation as well, right? So listen, your original plan to scratch him is not possible because Jayden Guhle can't go. Okay, well, then adapt your plan. To me, having him sit on the bench for the whole game and humiliate him that way, for, again, a guy that has an anxiety disorder, it's just not right. It's just not a good look at all. So practice what you preach. You want your players to be adaptable and to adapt to different situations. Well, the management team needs to do that as well, right? So again, I understand the culture. You can agree or disagree. There's other ways to do it, but I would have expected St. Louis in particular to understand, to have a little bit more empathy towards a player that has a psychological disorder like that.
But yeah, with that kind of problem, you should not play hockey. If you have other things, create him to create something like that to give him a privilege because you have this.
Hockey is for everyone.
It's just
Coach,
not. You know what I mean? It's not right to the rest of the team because everybody have something, and now you're going to create more drama around the team because this guy have this guy have this. Now it's become not much. It's just but it's red, it's white and black here. It's 10 o'clock. Yeah. If you're not there at 10 o'clock, sit your butt in the chair. Sorry, buddy, you're not going to play next game. That's it. That's all.
Well, so listen,
show up at 9:30. If you're scared to be late in the morning, wake up at 8 o'clock, ask your dad, your mom, your sister, everybody call you in the morning to wake you up. That's a part of your job. You make $5.5 million. That's a part of your job to be sure you not miss any team meeting. The most important team meeting, it was yesterday for the year after 9 goals. That's the one you have to never miss is tomorrow morning. Because tomorrow morning, we have to go back through this. For me, I think that's...
Then you can't say, Coach, these campaigns that they have, hockey is for everyone. Bell has let's talk day about mental health. If that's the case, then stop doing that stuff. It's not real. So if you really want, and I won't go on the whole Pride Night thing that happened, that's been happening around the league and all that. That's a whole other topic. We won't go there. But if you're going to say hockey is for everyone and you're going to have these mental health days and everything else.
No, what I made to you, you cannot make an excuse for any players, whatever they have problem, to keep them around the rules because they have a problem like he has right now. He have to deal with, he have to figure out that's other things about that one over there. If he can play hockey, I'm sure he can wake up every morning, not be late at the meeting.
Listen, like I said, it's the first time he's ever done that. It's in the legal sense is what we call a duty to accommodate. An employer, which is what the Habs are to Jonathan Drouin, if somebody has a medical condition, whether it's a physical medical condition or a psychological medical condition, the employer has a duty to accommodate. This is going to be boring. It's all legal and everything. But so the employer has a duty to try and accommodate that person to a reasonable extent, right? So
they help him. They have doctor. They have everything to him. They give him a free playoff, no game, everything like that. They're helping him to go all the way. But again, at the end of the day, it's a wake up call in the morning. It's not like you at like mental illness, a problem right there. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not
But
him
that
to
has
change
but I
everything.
that's
You
part
have
of his
other things,
condition.
could be anxious on the bench. It could be when the pressure is there, or any other thing can create that kind of the mental illness he has. But when you talk about wake up morning to be sure you're not at the meeting, that's not for me as an
No,
excuse about you have to
it is.
protect him for that
It
one
is,
over
Coach.
there. It's
It is
that's
because
black and white rule.
well, no, because that's what that illness does, right? Like the reason that he was having such a big problem before is that his anxiety would make him awake, like he couldn't sleep. And he would come into practice on time. His whole career, he's been to practice on time, but he hasn't slept because he's super anxious and he's having these anxiety issues. So again, I, I just I understand the concept. I'm all for creating parameters. We talked about this. I definitely agree with the type of culture that
Oh
St.
yeah,
Louis
I
wants to
understand what you
build and
try.
all that.
You just
Yeah,
disagree about the gesture what they did to him. That's it.
yeah. I think I just don't think it was a good judgment call. Like I said, if you want your players to be adaptable, then management should be adaptable as well and be a little bit more progressive. Agree to disagree, Coach.
All right, we'll see what happened in the chat. We're going to hear from people in the chat
Oh
for
yeah,
sure. Tonight,
I'm
don't
gonna get
forget, guys, we
barbecue.
have again another Montreal Canadian Ad Nation live tonight show at 9 o'clock p.m. We're going to talk about the Montreal Canadiens, of course, and we're going to talk about is it over yet? Or maybe Martin St. too hard to hammer Jonathan Drouin during the weekend. So that will be all the subject we got tonight. But we have to go what we do usually, review week number 25 for the Montreal Canadiens. They played 4 games last week, starting with Monday night, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Did not start very well after a great road trip, losing 6 game, six game I believe on straight, but they only gave a differential of -7, so they lose by 1 game honestly until they have an empty net. But the last game they play on the road. But again, Colorado, everything fall apart. They score 4 goals the first period, 4-1, became 6-1 the first 24 minutes. They win the period. The rest of the game 3-2 again, Colorado. They lost again by score 8-4. Pittsburgh, they come back with a W. They bounce back. That's what Martin St. was very happy about it. Whatsoever, Pittsburgh took the lead 2-0, and Montreal came back in the game to win that game for it was 4-4 after 40 minutes, and they won 6-4 and empty net from Montreal. And then the Florida Panthers, there was a disaster of the week. Honestly, everything fall apart there. 10 goal and 9 goal, whatever you want to make it. 10 goal first period. Then you have what? Many goals the first 9 minutes of this period. And Montembeault in, Montembeault out, Allen back, then out, Allen out, Montembeault back. It was like a free for a while. The Pope was going to flip on the other side. It was not better at the first period too for him. And then finally Montreal lost yesterday, but it was 3-2 for them after 40 minutes. They gave 3 goals and won the last one in empty net. We have to give them, a good bounce back, and they react very well for me. So we have 2 games they really well overall, and 2 games they was really bad. And unfortunately, they gave honestly.
Look at those numbers,
Eight
man. Like,
goals, 20 is about 12, 21, and 26 goals. But they score goal. That's the funny thing about that. They give a lot, but they get score goal. Usually, you can lose 9-2, 7-2. Like people compare those skid we talk about a little bit like December, and I think this is a two different moment for me. I know when it was in December, it was the same trade Tampa Bay and the Florida Panthers, but I think it's two different teams right away, and the way they play is fun too. I think so. It's not the same level. I think it was worse in December. So I would like to hear a little bit more. Give us a review of the weeks and mention just the score.
Coach, like looking at these scores, it's just it's just crazy scores, right?
It's
Like
football score, right? It's almost football score.
Yeah, it's like 1987 Oilers versus the Minnesota North Stars, and so yeah, like very, very kind of a strange week, I think you're right, the whole focus for St. Louis is just not having the team just kind of, fade out here at the end of the season, right? Like really trying to grind out the end of the season and continue to build upon what's been good this year, right? So, but I think they're just stretched so thin. Like, you can only ask so much of Alexandre Belzil, man. Like the guy's like, man, he was like double shifted yesterday. You know, like it's just too much to ask those players, right? But it's hard to fault the effort. You know, like even in Colorado, I can't say that the effort, like the engagement, was bad. Pittsburgh, I called it. I knew that they were going to win that game. They just always have some voodoo against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, I would be so concerned if I was them. Like Florida's like breathing down their neck. I would be very nervous for Pittsburgh fans because they haven't missed the playoffs in like 14 or 17 years or something like that.
16.
16. So,
Yeah.
that's not looking good over there, man. The
Problem is the
goaltending.
goaltending right there. If you put a good goaltender, not a great goaltender, a good goaltender, and I don't have to make any name, right? But it's just a good. They play
Yeah.
at the level like they could become. They're already in like 4 months ago. Like you look about the season of Crosby, Malkin, Raquel, Guanzal, Ross. They think played solid hockey since he came back from injuries overall. But unfortunately, the goaltenders cannot stop anything. Again, yesterday, 6-0 against the Rangers. Same story. Same story.
Yeah. So like really, I guess the highlight or low light of the week is definitely that Florida game. I was I was on your chat during that game. I think we were just kind of all just blown away with kind of what was going on. Like at some point, I think you were just laughing. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
think I've
well,
ever
it was
seen
so
you just
funny.
start
We
laughing.
cannot pick up
Yeah,
all the update. It was you turn your head, and then another one's coming in the net, and it was
yeah,
just crazy.
yeah,
It was not like I think you cannot blame all the goalies. Like there's just a puck. He was figured out anywhere. Like goal against Jake Allen, I believe, from the blue line from Ekblad, hit the top of the skate of the defenseman, it bounced back in the net. Pesada touched
yeah,
the puck, go over the glove of the Bobrovsky. It was not like a beautiful, great, amazing goal. And then they come from what? 4 defensemen at the top of the first 9 goal.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I think Montembeault definitely wasn't to blame. Maybe one of the goals, like the one I think from Ekblad, that where he came, but he still came down the middle, right? But you could see that Montembeault was a bit out of position for that one. Otherwise, though, like you could see, I think Allen, it was just bad timing. Like he put in extra work with the goalie coach and did a lot of training in that day because he didn't think he was going to be playing. And you could see, like, as soon as he came on the ice, he looked completely lost. I felt really bad for Jake Allen, and to me, the good. So there's two takeaways for me in this game. One is good, and one is bad. The good one is I really like that Montembeault came back in and fought like really hard and actually ended the game really well. And you could see that he carried that into the game last night into Tampa. To me, that was a really good character build for Montembeault. Like I continue to be really impressed with the season that he's had. Definitely established himself as an NHL caliber goaltender, and as you know, with any sports, but especially with goaltending, a lot of it is technique and everything else. But probably what, like 75% of it is all dans ton coco, right? It's all psychological. Be able to forget a bad goal, forget a bad performance, and be able to bounce back.
The key for
So
him now, Marco, is for me is more consistency. That's it. If he
yeah,
comes consistent performing like that, right? 75 games, 80 game in NHL, that's going to
yeah,
make his name now as a backup number 2. And you never know
yeah,
after that. But for me,
yeah,
it's repeat again. Repeat those game
yeah,
after game, game after
yeah.
game.
And we've seen glimpses of that this season. Like, so he had 3 games here in a row. Remember when Allen was injured, he had that period where he played like 8 or 9 games in a row. And for the most part, I thought he was pretty solid, was pretty consistent during that time. I'd have to go back and look at the record and the numbers, but from what I recall, it was pretty consistent. So to me, that was the positive takeaway. The negative takeaway, coach, man, that just pissed me off. I think I went on and on and on your chat about it, and then eventually I just had to stop because I was so frustrated. Caden Guhle. Okay, so I
We're
think I
going to talk
mentioned it.
about him the next couple of
Okay,
minutes, if you don't mind. We're going to talk
yeah. Okay,
about he's my next subject after this.
okay, okay.
The
So that
those
was my
games.
other takeaway. We'll talk about it in a minute, but man, that pissed me off. So last night, you're right. Good bounce back effort from the team overall. My evaluation. This is the time of year where you can really tell who wants to be a part of the solution next year. I think it's an easy list to come up with at this point. Like I think we know who we should be part of the solution for next year and who should not be, right? So these kinds of games, like the entire rest of the season, to me is just confirming that more than anything. Continue to work on those building blocks and continue to evaluate which players are part of the solution moving forward. So very interesting week. It revealed a lot about the players that are there. And I'm sure it was a very difficult week for St. Louis, like probably the toughest that he's had as a coach so far. I imagine this was probably the toughest week with the Drouin thing, with that crazy game in Florida. Must have been pretty hard. I'm sure he was wouldn't mind a little bit of a vacation. I'm sure he's looking towards the light at the end of the tunnel here and hoping that this is going to end relatively soon.
Yeah, a lot of good points. I think Martin, so you can see how he's growing as a coach, right? He react very well. They bring his back, bounce back after a bad game. That's what we want to hear, what they want to see. And they compete both games. They won one of them, and they lose yesterday. They could, Tampa Bay is not an easy team, so I like what I see that. But again, Martin, so we still continue to growing as a coach. He's not perfect. One area is really difficult for him is a goaltender. This is what he struggled the most at. One of the areas he struggled. And it's not easy for him. He shot Montembeault 3-2, and I'm not sure if it was the right move compared to, he tried to switch the momentum, we call this in hockey, right? He tried to remove goaltender, just shaking the team. I think for me, it was a bad play right there. He should maybe call the timeout, and it's easy to talk that way up there. But those moments, I think he need to improve, is to reevaluate a little bit better. So you know what? Maybe it's the time to call the timeout here and to come down then and maybe a little bit more upset behind the bench and not point Montembeault, because at the end of the day, you agree. You said to me earlier, like Montembeault have nothing he can do. 2 of the 3 goals he gave on the first couple of minutes of the game. So for me, that's where he need to improve more. That was kind of the goalie situation and then his timeout overall. But I like what he did, bounce back the team. Like you said, he make a lot of minutes working on the team. Practice at the Friday morning. It was a tough one to watching for the players to understand what you need. So they had some kind of readjustment he's learning. On the flip side, Marko, I don't know, 8 of them never going to play in Montreal next season. Maybe 9 of them, 7 of them. I don't know how many players. So it's not easy. And if you don't have a top-notch performance, a goaltender, that's where you get 5 goals, 6 goals, 7 goals, 9 goals, 8 goals. Because they have to play better what he is supposed to be to make the Montreal stay in the game. That's how it is right now, because the players, many of them should not play in the NHL. There's some people are excited about HP, Belzile, Pesada, Koreanov, and everybody else. But normally, they should not be there. They just take advantage of the opportunity and they turn around to be good for them. Anthony Richard, 2 points in the game before. Yeah. But he's not an NHL player. He's just not there. It just changed what he's supposed to be. Anyhow, I just want to give you...
that's a coach. You're 100% right. I remember not believe, like I couldn't believe that he didn't take a timeout. I don't think he's ever taken a timeout other than, at
he
the
take
end of the
one
game.
time. Remember, he was upset. I think it was the beginning of the 3rd period or something like that. He gave 3 goals the first 4 minutes. I don't know if it's Dallas or someone. It was pretty good. And then it was 2-2 after the 2nd period. And then he gave 3 goals. And then he got upset. If I can recall it properly.
Maybe. Yeah, you're right. Like we've talked about this before, his game management, ça passe vite, right? Ça passe très vite quand t'es derrière le banc, comme ça. So,
but he's learning. It's nothing wrong with this. It's like the players. I'm telling you, I'm going to talk about him the next couple of minutes, and we cannot blame him because I think he does a great job behind the bench for Montreal Canadiens overall. Montreal with that this week, 1-3-0, 27-37, and 6 for the beginning of the season. 8 of the classic, But this is the most important thing. They are 28 in NHL. They are right now at the bottom 5. And that's happening because the Flyers won yesterday. The Arizona have a great week. And Anaheim is getting closer with 4 points behind. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more at the end of the week, at the end of the show. But this is a great news for Montreal Canadiens. Not confirmed because a lottery is go to one way, to other way. You can go higher or you can go lower too. You can get kicked out from 5. But right now, Montreal on a great position to be at the bottom 5 with that week with it. But the most of the thing, Mr. Marko, we have to conclude the second subject was who stood out for you this week. It's not easy for everyone.
No, it's not an easy one at all. Like, my God, man, you know, it's really, really hard. Like,
I'll
other
go
than
with Gurianov.
Oh, say I just don't. Let's have a conversation about Gurianov because
Gurianov have what 4 goals the last 5 games, and I think for me, if you look about everyone around there, I think Mike Madison may be the closest one. I can say that with 25 minutes, 29 minutes per game, everything like that. Maybe not. It was pretty, but if you take for me you're always looking for his consistency to make a point, 2 point, and a goal, everything like that. I think Gurianov did it all week. I think he have 3 goals on the 4 games they played last week.
Yeah, I'm not sold on like what I was gonna say is other than the common players that we've been pointing out, so Matheson, RHP, I guess you could say Ylonen had a good week too. I think he has like 3 goals in 4 games or something like that. But while we're talking about Gurianov, I'm still not convinced. Like, there's no question that he is an elite shooter. Like, 2 of those goals, like, man, just off his stick within a split second. Like, there's no question about that at all. I just still haven't seen, and again, it's soon, right? But it's a little soon to do a full evaluation. But I don't see any, that he brings anything else to the game. Like, other than that 1 goal that he scored where he did that nice little move in front of the net, the only time that you see him is when his teammates feed him the puck. So
it remind me of Ren O'Reilly. He have a quick release. He dig on very quickly, and the goal they have no chance. When he is about 15, it's not easy to score a goal at 20 feet anymore in NHL. A lot of goals is rebound, tipped, everything like that. But him, he can score like 10, 15, 20 feet from the net with a quick release. And he did it when the Pitlick passed the puck, you know what I mean? Like Goldiller was behind him. But that's what he is. He's a snapper. Can he score 20 goals, 25 goals? I think he can if you have an opportunity to do it.
Yeah. But do you really want him? Like, can you have him in your top 6? Is he going to be too much? Like, we already have, unfortunately, unless, like I said before, if you're going to have Mike Hoffman in the lineup, there's no way you can if you can get rid of Mike Hoffman, maybe it's worth it then.
The advantage of Gurianov, Marko, is he's 6'3". We don't have enough big winger on the side, compete with the puck to pick up the puck, everything like that. And I think that's what
he doesn't win any puck battles. Like, he's big, you're right, but he's kind of lanky, but tall. Like, again,
yeah, but sometimes when the battle is not physical, it's about stop intercept because you have at 3 inches more, 4 inches more, you can puck better, everything like that. His quick transition is great. I think he can carry the puck. But again, I think he needs to learn to be more to slow the game. When you slow the game, it's open space for other players where you can see the puck, where he can go. It's a vision. Josh Anderson 1 year ago, it was exactly the same spot with Gurianov who is right now. You have no hockey sense, Josh Anderson, but you can see his development about that. Is it too late? I'm not sure. You have other questions we can ask about Gurianov, but so far you cannot complain. 5 goals since he's back with the Montreal Canadiens. You can see already his improvement with the Montreal Canadiens. Now, it's another player like RHP, Belzile, Pesera, Pitlick, and they take advantage of what they have in front of them right now. Because a normal team, where he played, 3rd line, 4th line, I don't know. But that's how we are with Gurianov.
For me, every day, I take RHP in my lineup before him. He just brings so much more.
Can you carry on Gallagher and RHP the same thing? Because that represent me the same thing with Drouin, Dadonov, and Hoffman.
Yeah, I think you should have an RHP or a Gallagher on every line on your team. Like,
on every line?
Yeah.
I know.
I think so. I don't like lines like here's a good example. I didn't like the Toffoli, Caulfield, and Suzuki line. I didn't like that line together because Toffoli was forced then to be the guy that went into the corners and won the puck battles.
No, Toffoli is not a kind of player you should play with Suzuki. You need a guy for checker, and a guy can find open a spot for Caulfield, everything like that. Suzuki is doing well with Caulfield because he opened the line for him. He's smart hockey players. I think Anderson should not play with them in my eyes. I think you need to get a better Audrey Palat or a guy like 6'1", 6'2", like Max, but he can pick up the puck, protect the puck.
Like
I'd be surprised. A guy like RHP is maybe one of the best Montreal right now to protect the puck or to seal the puck by using his body. Maybe the best for me right now at Montreal right now, and the lineup they have, he's maybe the one of the best to use his body properly to any situation on the ice and any zone. For me, that's what RPH does for what I'm most impressed by him.
Yeah.
By his stature, 5'9", Marko, and to seal the puck in the corner, and pick up the bed, turn around his back to the players, and to pick up the puck that way. Well done by him.
Jonathan Drouin should hire him as a personal consultant on how to win puck battles. He should give a clinic. Like if Jonathan Drouin did 70%.
But I would say to you, Marko, you have it or you don't have it. With my experience in hockey, you cannot. Really? The only thing I wish you have a doctor to be a surgery to change the heart of some players, but I cannot do it. And it's not in. You can ask, you know what I mean? Like you cannot be someone to be a hunter if you don't have it and the DNA. It's not. You cannot ask a one to be a hunter. He cannot do it.
No. Like we'll never have that same instinct. But I think there's some things you can teach, like the
hockey sense, the brain. You can change the brain of the players. You can modify the players' hockey sense. But the hunter side, Marko, I'm telling you now, it's you have it or you don't have it. On any level, it could be a pee-wee, it could be a midget, on A level, A, B, or double A, triple A. I go through from all my kid life. And how many times, Marko, you said, I wish this player, like you just said, I wish Drouin has like Pinard. Because imagine the skill of Pinard is so much, Drouin is so much better to Pinard on skill-wise, on talented-wise. He's just, Jonathan Drouin does not work at 100%. He works maybe at 65%, 70%. I can go with every player. We just talked Drouin right now, but he could be another player.
Yeah,
but
anyhow,
great point about that one there. We have to move on. And because the next subject, I'm sure you was hot about this. I know you talk about this during the week. I have a couple of other options, maybe where you're going to set this. First of all, Jayden Struble. The next one is Caden Guhle about this. Jayden Struble signing a 2-year contract this week. ALC was sent to Montreal to Laval Rocket because they used one option or an amateur tryout over there. But I still believe he cannot make the roster for the playoff anyway. But what do you think about Struble? He can be called up, by the way, for Montreal Canadiens if necessary, if they want it. What do you think about that signature in 1 minute?
I think it's a good signature. Like, again, it's our position of strength. It's better than having an asset go away for nothing. So it's good. They retain the asset. Another example of Kent Hughes leveraging his background and his relationships to make this happen. Because again, I think we've talked about a coach, like if it wasn't for that relationship, I would have been shocked that Struble would sign in Montreal with all the competition and all the people ahead of him and how difficult his path is to the NHL in Montreal. So, if I was advising him, I'm not sure I would have advised him to sign with Montreal. But
can I give you another way? The other side about that, Marko. It's just give you an idea for everybody, by the way. So because I listened to someone, I don't know which one it was, but they was talking about those kind of troubled older players, and we don't see a lot of players does this, Marko, and the NCAA. Don't have There are not many players go on that route after the August 15 become a UFA. Every time that is rare. Here's the point behind that, Marko, is every team have only 50 contract in NHL, right? That's the max you can get as a hockey professional, and then you can go American Hockey League after that. Think about this. I'm 46, 47, and you are the GM for Minnesota Wild. You draft X Smith, second round pick, 46 overall pick, and then now you have Jayden Struble knock the door. What do? You just draft you really believe in what you draft before you go to outside of the organization. At least an exception, but he's not an exception. So at the end of the day, the door will not be very open for him to have an opportunity of signing a contract. Now he can get like become a UFA, so he can get a contract to play in American Hockey League for Toronto Marlies, everything like that. But I think for him, his best way, and for me, plus when you get drafted by an NHL, you try to stay with the NHL. At least you're a 7th-round pick or something like that, or you really does not go nowhere. I'm thinking about the kids for the Denver University signing a PTO with the Laval Rocket. He stay there. Blake, Jesus, anyhow. But I think his option was the best for him, for Struble, is to stay with the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, like there are some scenarios where, let's say you're a team that, you know, has traded a lot of your draft picks, like say the Toronto Maple Leafs or the Tampa Bay Lightning, you know, like teams that have leveraged their draft picks to be competitive now, then those are teams that maybe it would be a good fit for a player like that. Or teams
but again,
that are
you
just,
go to always advantage your players draft. I think for me now, a 6th-round pick, 7th-round pick, he had nowhere to go, everything like that. They would give him a PTO to play in American Hockey League. But it's rare. That's my point behind that. It was to give you.
It's very rare. Yeah.
That's the, you know, it's happened, but not many of that one. So let's move on that one.
It's a very tough path to make it to the Habs lineup. Like there's Jack Eye's already ahead of him, similar profile player. So it's gonna be tough. We'll see.
But again, if you go think about this, Marko, he go there, he plays solid minute with Laval Rocket. He have a good year, 2 years. Montreal have 2 years to develop him, and then after that, it could be now interest Arizona Coyotes, maybe interest the St. Louis Blues, maybe the Vancouver Canucks, maybe like him, they trade him at some point. But at least Montreal have 2 years to develop him, where we never know, someone can become better after 2 years.
For sure. Yeah.
Here we go. The subject, I apologize. I was supposed to be him before Struble, but it is what it is. Caden Guhle, play or not, was the biggest subject because one was upset about the fact he got hurt again this week after he fall. And he was on the treatment date yesterday, Friday, not Saturday. And people was expect possible he play Saturday. Obviously, he did not play. And that's where we are right now. So maybe he can open the door and explain a bit more what you think about the situation, not only with Caden Guhle, but maybe overall.
I just don't understand, Coach. Like, again, for the most part, I've been very complimentary about everything that the Habs management's been doing. But we've talked about it in the last couple of shows, like some question marks around some of the decisions happening around the medical staff. You know, so we've talked about, like, let's use Caulfield as an example, right? So we had this conversation. Caulfield wanted to stick it out and play the rest of the season, right? But they kind of had an intervention with him. They sat him down and said, listen, Cole, like, we know you want to finish the season, but listen, like, this season doesn't really mean anything. I think it's better that you just get the surgery and be ready for next year. Don't worry. It's not going to affect your contract negotiate, all that, right? So I think it's like an intervention, right? And Coach, you've said this before, and I 100% believe it. The team, the players seem to be the one calling the shots. Carey Price used to get criticized about this all the time, like, oh, Carey Price chooses when he plays and when he doesn't play. So it seems to me that, and me being critical of hockey culture again a little bit, is if a player comes in and you know that it's not in your player's best interest for him to play, even though he wants to play. And again, we love that. We love the nature of a fiery competitor, a warrior that wants to go and play. Like, trust me, I get it. I value that and I respect that. But you have to be smart about it too, right? Like, there's no reason why Caden Guhle should have ever even come back to begin with. So there was reports that after he hurt his knee, which is what you remember, that was against Florida before the holidays that he hurt his knee, right?
Barkov.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was Barkov that fell on him. So there's some reports out there that, again, he was pushing to come back as soon as possible. Why? Why would you let him come back? Like, if it's not 100% healed, there's nothing to gain from him doing it. Like, not like I think he had proven everything that he needed to prove this season. He's playing like a veteran out there. It's not like he needed the extra reps, I think, to get comfortable. He's already pretty much playing like the minutes of a number one defenseman. So to me, C'est en français on dit comme deux poids deux mesures, right? Like why are you managing the Caulfield situation that way and dealing with the Guhle situation another way? Is it just because Guhle was more convincing to the team that he wanted to play? That shouldn't be what it's like. Like ultimately, the team should be the one deciding what happens with that player. Yeah, the player, like it's great. We want the player to be Gallagher-esque and like fight to get back as soon as possible. Like you want that. Like that's just a competitive nature. I get that, but at some point, the team needs to be the responsible one and hold the player back.
But who is the team? You know, I mean, the team, but who isn't? Here, I will give you another example. I think they did a good job with DUARTE. They did a good job with Doc. They did a good job with Jacky. Right? You can go the way. Here's the. I'll give you an example, like Cooley situation. I get hurt, everything like that. Go back in the locker room. Now he can see by the doctor, but you have no time to go MRI. You don't have no time to checking all the gravity of the injuries or anything like that. Now, but who take the decision so he can come back on the ice? Martin Saint-Louis, right now, he's coaching. He can see the number 16 is on the 21, he's on the bench. Tap his elbow. They're trying to tell him so he can play. Don't worry about that. Boom, he go. So, but again, I don't know who's the trainer in charge about those decisions. The doctor, whatever, Mueller, whatever we call him, he's not always with them, right? Although you have someone inside the organization take a decision when a game play. He has, we cannot, or he can play. The concussion is black and white, right? You go through the 7 minute there, and you can decide if he can or cannot, and it should take a decision. And again, I'm not said what I said to you, okay, yeah, someone take a decision about those kind of the decision about that one over there. He felt okay, he's filled to go. Now, unlucky for a goalie again, he got hurt. But for me, the point behind what you try to explain, for what I can see, Marko, is like, is it really worth it to stay with X number of the game now until the end of the year to let him play if you feel like he's not at 100%? Is a playoff tomorrow, Marko? We know that's another conversation, right? Sure. But right now, I think that's what you try to bring on the table is about, is it worth it right now to let it go?
Yeah, to me, what I see is the future Shea Weber, and not in a good way. Like I think we can compare him to Shea Weber and how he plays. Like he's tough and like, but I'm wondering. Okay,
but that's who they are, Marko. That's who they are. Look, Monahan. Look, many players we can go gaining. It's just part of they are. They compete everything like that, and they just go there. I understand that it's hard to stop a player. It's hard to go that way. I can understand that, but yes, and they are not great. They are not perfect, right? How they can improve, like you said, how they can make this better. And that's what I think Montreal should look about deeper, and that's what he wants to do. By the way, on the flip side, that's the point. But there's a great point when you bring about that. It's not like I'm not against you. It's just like I think it's if you review the overall, we're going to do a show at the end to see the season of Montreal Canadiens. That would be one side of negativity of the season. I believe the mid-call overall about the season. And it's a team that get hurt, by the way, a lot. So they need to be sure they are good to go, right? We have a few minutes, Marko. We have a rock and roll 7 minute, Marko, and I'm not done yet. And I have a lot of subject to go, but it's a special. We can talk more next week. Yesterday, Marko, on the weekend, Martin Saint-Louis, it was introduced the Hall of Fame of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then with Vincent Lecavalier. Both of them work with the Montreal Canadiens. But my point behind this, the Tampa, Montreal Canadiens create a lot of great things in NHL on many ways. You talk about when Montreal would like to be like Boston Bruins, would like to be like Tampa Bay, they would like to be like Nashville. The culture, they talk about the brand, that can go that way. But Tampa Bay Lightning build their team with the eyes of the Montreal Canadiens. That's why they've been that way over there. They look about Montreal, what they accomplished. You have to go all the way with the Phil Esposito. It was the first. Now they create those kind of Hall of Famer and a Tampa Bay Lightning. Well done by this. But I don't want to mention more about what I just said because I will be for longer. I don't know if you want to add anything about Martin Saint-Louis introduce Hall of Fame.
No, I think it's very well-deserved honor. And you're right, Coach. Like lots of teams have used Montreal. Like, even Lou Lamoriello back in the day, like he modeled the original New Jersey Devils with Jacques Lemaire. Like he was trying to imitate the Montreal Canadiens, right? So it goes both ways. Montreal's now adapting, being progressive, trying to adapt to other teams, but what goes around comes around, right? But yeah, Montreal's been a huge role model for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, absolutely right. My subject following him, it was that Martin St-Louis, the teacher. I think for me, he became one of the best coach in the NHL, the way he teach the players on their development over there. I read an article this week about Martin St-Louis, how he used the pad, how he used the video session. He spent 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes with strength players all the time. And he gave them the best shift, the bad shift, and he teaching them. He see the game, Marko, like anybody else see the game. That's what we got for they make a kind of survey with the player, 10 players, and they asking them why Martin St-Louis is so different, because he don't see the game like anybody else. He anticipates the game to another way. He showed to the players like never heard before in their life about hockey. That's why Martin St-Louis is already in front of everybody. How many times I said to you, maybe I said again, people, he never coached in NHL. He coached Martin St-Louis since 2004 in NHL. He asked questions every day to the coaches. He tried, and he have a great story about Anderson, Steve Ludzik. Is it Ludzik? Right? He played there. And he have another coach was the Tampa Bay Lightning. One day go to Martin St-Louis at the beginning, and he was already questioned those people about coaching hockey. He will talk with Vincent Lecavalier to see the games friendly. And that's what Martin does with the Montreal Canadiens, the teacher. I call him remember the prof Caron? But that's the prof is Martin St-Louis. Yeah. He see the game so many ways, like anybody. I think for me, is a good fit. He developed players, and all the players are excited about Martin St-Louis when he talked to them at 7 minutes. He don't there. He said he go to the point. He gave us the right knowledge about this, and he want us to learning to see the games friendly with a hockey sense. And he always said we can develop the brain, the hockey sense, and the IQ of every player in NHL. And that's what Martin St-Louis does with Adam Nicola behind the scenes about this. I just want to share a little bit more about Martin St-Louis. I can go deeper about Martin St-Louis, but he used the pad every single day. And I don't know if you want to add something else there.
Yeah, like I think one of the funnier stories is when I think the first time that St. Louis coached against Tortorella, and they asked him about him, and like he was the biggest pain in the ass to coach. Not because he didn't, listen to what I said, but he would just argue about everything. And so, to me, that's kind of the early thoughts or the early kind of development of St. Louis, right? Like challenging his coaches and everything else. Last thing I want to say, I don't know if you saw this, but in Tampa, they had this girl, I think from Slovakia. Yeah. Crazy. She walks up to St. Louis. Imagine this happened to you, coach. Like somebody walks up to you, Coach Frenchie, you're my idol. By the way, check this out. Boom. And there's like a tattoo of Coach Frenchie on their arm. Like imagine how crazy. So for those of you who didn't see that, this young girl from Slovakia, her dream, and she was inspired by St. Louis, got into hockey because of Martin St. Louis. And she shows up and she has a Martin St. Louis in the number 26 tattooed on her arm. And Martin St. Louis was just completely blown away, right? So just, like his impact, not just on the team now, but on shorter players, I wouldn't say small, shorter players in the NHL, like his impact has been tremendous, and he's not done, right? Like he's just starting to kind of revolutionize, or at least kind of innovate when it comes to so we're very lucky to have him for sure, even though I disagreed with what he did with Jonathan Drouin.
Yeah, absolutely about that. I think, when you do it as a coach, I've been coach, right? When you do a drill, you have to figure out, okay, how we do it, why we do it, what the reason behind that. You have a purpose for every drill, because every time you do a drill, you have a purpose behind for what we have to break. Sometimes you have to go to base, everything. If you look about his practice, it's not great. Like, it's not great. It's not like big practice, but he does the right thing. He wants the player to the reps, the touch, the puck, and feel the puck. Last night, he started the practice Friday morning. Crazy beginning. He was just dumping the puck for the red line, the blind to the goalies. Why? Because you want the goalie feel the puck right now. They come back at the base of what they should do, and then they move on with the next exercise. That's why Martin Saint-Louis is excellent. He think about everything. Could talk about him all the time. We'll go to Skip Kurianov for tonight. We want to finish. I'm going to talk about this. Clock is ticking for unlocking Kurianov. I'm going to bring him next week if you don't mind. The prospect Montreal Canadiens have an amazing, great weekend. Good news or bad news? You want to hear the good news?
Let's start with the good news always.
Lane Hudson did it again. 2 goals last night, a goal-winning game, and overtime again the Merrimack to give the championship of the ECAC for the Boston University, and then move on to the next round and possible to go to Final Four if everything's not wrong. But again, Lane Hudson won 3-2 yesterday. He was 2 of the 3 goals. It's phenomenal. You have a dream year. And the people are cheering yesterday, OB for Hudson last night. So really great atmosphere for that. On the flip side, Mr. Marko, it was not good. Sean Farrell eliminate yesterday. So it'll be really interesting now. What happened this week? Well, it'll be a really good conversation about that. I think they lose in overtime, if I can recall it. I can't remember. But Sean Farrell eliminate that. Now, it could be invite. You remember they invite teams to join the elimination a little bit later. So we'll see if it's a case for Advert. We know Advert was at the top 30 team in NCAA. So it could be that way. But if it's not, the team go nowhere. Sean Farrell could be joined the Montreal Canadiens. If it will be interesting to follow that story. And Joshua, 5 points yesterday for the Sherbrooke Phoenix. He has 7 points the last 2 games. And Logan Mailloux did it again. 3 points again. He consistently performing 3 star of the week for the Montreal Canadiens prospect overall for them. Montreal have 3 games this week. Tuesday back-to-back against Tampa Bay Lightning. The Boston Bruins Thursday night, and the Columbus Blue Jackets. This is the game of the year for the Montreal Canadiens. What? They cannot beat the Blue Jackets. They cannot. They cannot beat them. 1 point, lose 3-2 in overtime. They'll be happy about that. That'll be great, mister. Because I'm telling you right now, I follow everything. Arizona play Winnipeg, Edmonton, Colorado. 0-4 for them this week, I believe. The Anaheim, Calgary, Winnipeg, Edmonton. 0-3 for Anaheim. They are 4 points behind Montreal Canadiens. Then Philadelphia, Minnesota, but they play Detroit. This is a game where maybe Flyers can beat the Detroit, helping them. They have 2 points for the Montreal, and they play for Montreal in the final week, I believe. At least they have 1 more game to play between each other. So it'll be interesting about that. But this is the week of the Montreal, so hopefully they're not going to do pretty good overall. We don't want to tank, but we want them to see what they look like at the end. So that's what they have. I don't know what we expect from Montreal this week, Mr. Marko.
I don't just, when you mentioned Farrell, to me, that would be one of the fun things to look forward to in the last 12 games. If we could get a little sample size of Farrell, that would be so really good news. If we could just have quelque chose pour se mettre sous la dent, c'est pour les derniers matchs de la saison. So we'll see, Coach. Hopefully less of a roller coaster this week. No more injuries, no more bonehead calls by the team in that way. That would be nice, but it can't be more weird than last week. That was definitely one of the weirder weeks of the season. And Coach, this season is flying by, man. Can't believe we only have, I think, 1 more.
12 game to go, Mr. Marko. We're going to hit 3 more weeks together. 4 more will be the end until next season, but we'll be interesting how they're going to do. 12 game to go. Not much development right now. I think for me, it's more about the preparation for each game. I think the preparation of the game is not still there. I think they get better. And of course, continue to compete until the end. I always said at the last month of the month for this season, I use the word finish strong. You can see now who gave up, who does not want to give up, and part of the performance on the ice. But again, we have to give credit. I understand they lost 9 and 8 goals, but geez, the last 2 weeks, Montreal compete most of the time, and they stay in the game until the last 3rd period. That's what we want with the 12 injuries. This is, Marko, unbelievable. Not many teams been through what they have right now. So we have to see positive. We target the top 5. Mr. Marko, we want to get a lower pick we can, understand, but this is what it is. So I look forward to see you next Sunday, Mr. Marko. We'll get another one. Next week, we'll see what happens on the week, but I can wait until then. We want to invite everybody. Don't forget to click on the like, subscribe to our Canadian Show, and join us live. We are live many hours per day on the Hockey Nation Show. We wish you an amazing, great week, Marko.
Merci tout le monde. Attends.